and welcome to the 7th episode of the BeatParky podcast. I'm Michael, and I'm here with my producer, Carl.
What's up?
And we've got a special guest today. So, one of my good friends, Denny Dumas. How you doing?
Lucky number 7. Looking forward to it, man.
So what I do with a lot of guests, I didn't actually tell you this beforehand. We do height, weight, max bench press if you've got one, and maybe a one-liner about who you are, what you do, or how you describe yourself.
Love it. Into it. I am 6'2 3/4".
Wow.
My weight has fluctuated a lot in the last couple of years.
Yes.
So I'll give you my weight as of January 2017 was 210 pounds. We can talk about fitness. I like that stuff. Currently about 183 pounds.
Holy smokes.
Lost a lot of weight, got into hiking,
Right.
run a lot,
Yeah.
work out a lot more now.
Yeah. A one-liner, max bench press. I guess you probably haven't worked out.
Max bench press. I
Not
work
a
out
lot of
like
people-
almost every day now.
But not a lot of people
I don't
do like bench, right?
or
like,
maxes.
Yeah.
If I were to guess, doing some quick math in my head here, 183.
That's not bad. That's pretty good. If you can bench your
That's straight out of my ass.
if you can bench your own weight, that's kind of the bench, the standard. One line to describe yourself. So if we had just met, hey, I'm Denny. Boom.
This is good, actually. I've met some new people recently just through like Instagram and randomly running into people at bars.
It's
and
like, how do I describe myself? Right?
I always start with, I work for myself. I am mentally fucked. What does that mean?
Yeah.
I'm sure we're going to get into it.
Right,
but
right.
I have a very specific perspective on how I want my life to run and how I want to grow professionally.
Yeah.
And most people don't understand it.
Yeah. I can see that. A lot of people think you're probably crazy, right? But
100% crazy.
yeah, we'll get more into that later on. What have you been up to this weekend or lately? Do anything exciting?
Just kind
this
of
on
getting back
Sunday.
into the swing of things with work this fall.
Yeah.
The summer typically slows down for us quite a bit,
Right.
especially August, and our team has grown in the last
Right.
6 months or so. So my role has adjusted a little bit and was fortunate enough to kind of take it fairly easy this August and
Yeah.
get out and do a lot of hiking.
A lot of hiking,
Which is
eh?
wicked.
How did you get
So-
into hiking? Like, were you always an outdoor nature person? Do you like the views? Like, what is it about hiking that intrigues you the
I'm
most?
obsessed with views, real estate views for sure. So that partially was something that helped me kind of get into it this summer.
Yeah.
And it really was just July. But more just like personal life stuff, and hiking I found is a very good mental
Relaxing,
release.
yeah. People like to be in nature. Carl loves hiking, right? Carl,
Yeah,
you hike
Did
quite
a few
bit.
hikes this summer.
What are your guys' favorite hikes? Here's the thing about me. I am not fascinated with nature at all. Like, I couldn't care about nature any less than I currently do. Like a waterfall or anything, like whatever. Doesn't.
Trees and rocks and stuff doesn't really get me going, but it's more like
Is it the height?
It's the view.
Okay.
And it's
So it's
the work that you put in, right, to get to the top. That's important too.
So what if I just took the
Totally.
gondola? It's like up.
It's not the same.
But whatever, you still get the same view.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
is
you
what
get
it
the
is.
same view, right?
Everyone has a different
Yeah, I guess you
idea
are
of what they
towards
want to
it.
do or like
Towards
to
it.
do.
So I actually had my 10-year high school reunion yesterday, and we were talking about this before we started recording. And your sister's in my grade, and she was there yesterday too. But you guys had your 10-year last year, right?
We sure did.
and how was that? Like, did you guys see a lot of people that you hadn't seen in a while, and kind of caught up, and things were kind of the exact same, and it was just nice to see them?
One was Carl, man. I hadn't seen you in a while when we chatted again the last year. At
Yeah,
our
it was a little
reunion.
bit.
Yeah, it was interesting because in high school, for me anyway, I was pretty quiet.
Yeah.
I have grown out of that shell a lot.
Right,
in
because
the
you had
last
moved
couple years.
schools too, right? So you came to St. Thomas More, where we met in high school, when you were in grade 10,
Yeah,
I think?
grade 10.
Yeah.
That's when I recruited you, right?
Yeah, something like that. I was so excited to play with you on provincial team last summer, Carl, that I couldn't leave you. Yeah, it's interesting to chat with people after you haven't seen them in so long to kind of reconnect and just see how different you are from the age of 18 to 28.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. Like some people have
insane.
grown so much, and some people are the exact same as they were like when they're 18, right?
Yeah.
Like it blew my mind yesterday actually, but it was so much fun. And I don't know, obviously some people you lose touch with, you wish you stayed in touch with, and some people you lose touch with, you're like, hey, it doesn't really matter. But you see these people and you're very happy to see them, and everybody's really nostalgic about everything. But I always wonder, like, I wonder now, like, will I keep in touch with these people, or will it be like, hey, when I see them at the 20-year reunion, I haven't seen you in 10 years, like, how you been?
Yeah.
And one of my friends brought up a great point. He was talking to his dad about the reunions, and it meant a lot more back when our parents went through high school, because there was no social media, there was nothing, right? So you literally had not seen the person in 10 years. There was so much to catch up on. And now it's like I could go on Facebook and I could literally creep whoever, like somebody I haven't talked to in 10 years and know everything about them, right? So like when I literally introduce myself, I'm like, hey, I'm Michael, like, how's it going? And they're like, oh, I remember you. I'm like, oh, how's the baby? And it's like, I haven't talked to this person in like 10 years, but I know they've got a kid. Like I know like this, and this, right?
Yeah.
So
I never thought about it that way, because I guess we're just so accustomed to it now.
yeah.
But looking back last year, it was interesting just like saying hi to people and everyone is telling me what I'm doing, right? Rather than me answering questions. It's more like, oh, you're in real estate, you're doing so well, it's so exciting to see. You're teamed up with Jamie. How's the brewery going? Like they're telling me about my life rather than me asking questions.
And you're like, I don't know what to say. Like you stole literally everything I was going to say about it. So let's see some of the notes I've got here. So how we met, basketball, obviously. You came to St. Thomas More, played basketball. Probably one of the best players I've ever seen play. How did you fall in love with the sport, and kind of what drove you? Because I see some of that in your work now, right?
For sure.
Like you're just driven by it. Have you always had this attitude, even when you were a younger kid playing board games? I guess you had a lot of brothers and sisters. Like how did that, do you think it's mental wiring that you've always been ingrained with, or how did you have that work ethic and the drive and the motivation?
I've thought about that a lot recently. I don't know exactly. I would maybe put it into a few things. One is just growing up in an athletic family.
Right.
Having two brothers that are 10 and 9 years older than me. So as a 6-year-old, I'm watching them play in like the Catholics tournament, which I thought was a big thing at the time. Yeah. Playing in provincials in the Agrodome. And just being a little kid watching these teenagers compete. Right. And so I guess that's part of it. I played a crazy ton of sports when I grew up. Played basketball, football, baseball, soccer. And so it was just like all year is sports every day, all day. Yeah. And so that's where I got a lot of the competitive nature from, for sure. My parents, I disagreed with a lot of what they did when I was growing up, but looking back, seriously, just like ultra conservative approach to life, which I don't agree with at all, but I can understand. Right. But at the same time, they like never handed anything to their kids. Even as like a kid in elementary school, if I wanted a new pair of basketball shoes, they would give me $50. I'm like, Mom, those shoes are $180. What am I going to do? What am I going to do with $50?
Buy a quarter of a shoe.
Yeah. And so they're like, if you want to get more expensive shoes, you got to do the paper route for 2 weeks or whatever. Right. So you just kind of learn to, one, you learn the value of money really early when your parents don't give you anything, but two, you learn how to work for a goal. Right.
Right. One question I like to ask a lot, actually, and we see this a lot with professional athletes, was basketball. I'd say basketball was your best sport, right? You're the best at. Was it your favorite sport, though?
I cared the most about basketball.
Okay.
I don't know if it was necessarily the best. Like,
because we see a lot of athletes, professional athletes, just go into it. Like, they don't really love the sport, but they're just good at it, right? And you just keep doing it, and then all of a sudden you find yourself in the league accidentally. Like,
I have a weird personality, and I describe it as I get obsessed with things.
Right.
So basketball is definitely an obsession. Yeah. I don't know why I picked basketball. Probably maybe watching my brothers play growing up, but I think naturally I was probably better at football. Right. I think my body, my athleticism just fit that sport better. Whereas basketball, I'm a short white kid. Yeah. And so once you start actually competing against athletes, you're way behind. Yeah. So it was definitely my obsession. That was the thing when I was a kid from 5 to 21. Yeah. Was basketball. But in terms of like
what did you have most fun, and like what's your favorite sport? Was it basketball?
For sure.
Yeah. What is it now?
It's
because this changed a bit, right?
It's golf now.
Golf, lots of golf, eh?
And it's slowly becoming bowling.
Actually,
no. Downhill.
Yeah, like how did you get into
bowling? Is just social, right?
Yeah.
It's so much fun to.
Everybody can do it, right? You just roll a ball.
Totally.
You don't have to be good. You don't have to be anything, right?
But what I take seriously and what I'm competitive with is golf for sure.
Yeah. How did you get into golf?
I'm just attracted to the mental game.
Okay.
Like it's so, you can be an average athlete and be super mentally strong and be good at golf.
Right.
You have to practice a shit ton.
Yes. Yep.
But like there's some guys that are super athletic, amazing golfers will shoot 6 under when they're playing with their buddies and then go and play in a tournament and shoot 10 over.
Yeah. It's
like,
all in your head, right?
Why? You're good enough to be that good. It's just they can't handle the pressure.
Right. Yeah.
And so I got into golf maybe like 6 or 7 years ago, and more just like as something to compete with myself with.
Yeah.
But it turned into like a release from work almost as well.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Because when you're playing golf, if you're thinking about something else, you suck. You need to be like 100% into golf.
Yeah.
Focusing on what shot you want to hit, how you want to hit it, what's your lie like.
Yeah. And the second you think about anything,
like,
right?
Yeah. It's insane.
How do you put yourself in positions like that? So one of my examples is I used to run the occasional half marathon. So I'd run about like one a year, and I wouldn't train for it. And I'd just sign up for the sole fact, because I hated running. I signed up for the sole fact that I knew on that day it would be the most mentally challenging thing I would do like that month or maybe those couple months. And like anybody can physically run a half marathon, but it's just, if you don't train for it, you're going to want to quit 1,000 times over and over again. You might want to walk. You're like, oh, I'm starting to cramp. I feel a little tightness. Do you put yourself in positions like that to challenge yourself and see, hey, at this point, everybody wants to quit. And it's like, now what does my mind want to do? Like, what do I want to do? Right. And I find it's pretty cool. But do you put yourself in positions like that?
Yes and no. I'd say, again, my mind works a little bit weird, but I think I'm very, very mentally tough. I think that's one of the biggest strengths that I have,
right,
regardless of whether it was sports, school, business, whatever.
Yeah. So
I pick weaknesses, and I've done this multiple times recently, where I don't like talking in front of people, multiple people. I'm super comfortable in small groups, but when there's like 20 people or more and it's public speaking kind of stuff, I'm super uncomfortable.
So why is that?
I have no idea. I was a bit of a shy kid. I look back at my childhood, and I wouldn't change anything because I learned so much through playing sports and, and little adversity things that I went through.
Right.
The only thing I wish I did more was be more social. I think that would have helped me a little bit earlier in my career. And now I'm comfortable with that kind of stuff, but I think it's probably because I never went to high school parties. Like I never did anything social because I was just obsessed with sports.
Yeah, he's getting better and training. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And obviously the nature of your business right now, you have to be social, right?
For sure.
It's a part of the job. It's probably
huge.
the most important part of the job.
Huge.
So let's get a bit into real estate. So for those of you guys listening right now, sorry, I should have broken it down. But in the first segment, we're going to do basically just how me and Denny met and what he's doing right now, and then sort of a bit into his real estate business. And then we're going to take a break. And in the second portion, we're going to get into concepts like what we were talking about before, sort of what motivates you, personal growth, like do you set goals, perseverance, work-life balance, chip on your shoulder, all that stuff. And then a bit into social media at the end. Denny's huge on social media. Tell us your social media handles, your Instagram handle right now.
Instagram is by far the biggest one that I use, and it's Denny.Dumas.
Yeah.
I'm not very active on Twitter. I would like to become more active on Twitter. I see a lot of value in just this engagement of
We'll get more into that later.
Twitter.
Don't worry. So your most important one is Instagram right now.
Yeah,
okay.
Instagram for sure.
Denny.Dumas. And you use a lot of that. So you're in real estate right now. Started a company called Greater Vancouver. How old is that?
So I got in real estate 2014 and teamed up with Jamie then.
Yeah.
I just kind of worked under him for a year and a half, and then we created the Greater Vancouver brand 3 years ago.
Right. Okay. So let's dive a bit into that. How did you get into real estate, and why real estate?
Oh boy, this is a long story. So when I got out of university, I started working for my dad. My dad ran sports bars.
Yeah.
So I managed a couple, bartended a couple. He had some financial troubles. Businesses kind of fell apart.
Right.
And I didn't know what to do. I was kind of lost. I took the first job that I could find, which was a job at RBC.
Okay.
I worked there for 5 months, and it was probably the worst 5 months of my life.
What did you do there? So that's the bank, right? RBC?
Yeah. Okay. Sorry to hate on any RBC employees out there, but
would you like a customer service rep? Or
yeah, it was not my
So you were the teller, basically.
for my personality, yeah. So That was 5 months. And just like to put it in perspective, I worked for my dad for 6 years, called in sick 0 times, worked at RBC for 5 months, called in sick 5 times. Just it was not fun to be there every day. So I had bought a condo using Jamie just through like a mutual friend referral, maybe 3 or 4 years ago before working at the bank.
Right.
And I had always just kind of fired him emails every once in a while saying like, you know, I'm thinking about real estate. What's my next move? Blah, 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 blah,
right.
Whatever it be. And so I called him at one point and I'm just like, I need a change. I'm thinking of doing it right now. What are my next steps? And so we went for, I remember this so clearly. We went for breakfast. It was like early December. And I was like, I'm signing up for the course tomorrow. Let me know like if there's any opportunity to work with you, what I can learn, if I can just follow you around for a month and listen and watch what you do.
Yeah.
And then I signed up for the course, did it as quickly as possible, which is 2.5 months, wrote the exam, luckily passed because I had quit my job already before I passed the exam at RBC. And yeah, that was kind of the beginning. It
only takes 2.5 months to get your real estate. I guess you must have had the prerequisite courses.
Nope.
No.
So I'd say the biggest problem with our industry is that it's too easy to get into.
Right.
The barrier to entry is so low. That's why there's like 15,000 agents in Greater Vancouver.
Everybody's a realtor, right?
It's so easy to get a license, and it's very cheap to keep your license.
Right.
It's $1,250 per 2 years to keep a license.
Holy smokes.
So it's so cheap. Yeah. Even if you do one deal a year, like it's easy. Your dad buys a house or whatever.
Yeah. Or if you just pay it yourself, right? It's literally like $600 a year. Like,
exactly.
It's not much.
So that's one of the biggest problems with the industry. But yes, they've changed the requirements now, and there's like an applied course that's after you actually get licensed.
Right.
So it's changed a little bit, but in order to get a license, it's literally a 2-month course.
And it's like a multiple choice exam, right?
You get a book from Sauter that's like the size of the Bible. It has very little useful information in it in terms of actually selling a house.
Right.
You do 20 online assignments and you write an exam, a multiple choice exam.
Holy smokes. We got to look into this, Carl. We're going to start flipping houses on the side. That's incredible.
Carl, be a good thing for you to.
But isn't there rules like if you have to be like do this full time in order to be able to sell houses, or can you do it part time?
No, people do it part time.
So you can do this 2.5 months course?
It used to be full time.
Right.
I don't know how you qualify full time. Like you work for yourself. Who's watching you? Keeping hours or what?
Yeah.
But no.
Just working for yourself.
You can have a lot of people have other jobs.
Jeez.
So you get
I know some realtors that are teachers,
right?
And they just sell like 3 houses a year on the side.
Yeah, and you just do it in the summer. Yeah.
What the heck?
That's insane. So, for example, Carl, if you were thinking about selling this place that we're currently doing the podcast out of, and I was like, "Can you give me 2.5 months? Let me get my license, and then I can sell it for you, right?"
And you get the commission.
Yeah, that's crazy because you need a realtor for every sale.
Incorrect.
No, you can sell it yourself and not pay the realtor fee.
Owner, right?
You can sell privately.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I did not know that.
You're hiring a realtor to promote.
Okay.
Right. So if you list your own condo, how many people are going to see it?
Right.
You're going to put it on Craigslist.
My friend, actually, you know,
Facebook.
Andrew McClary.
Yeah.
Lives in Windsor right now. He put his house on Facebook like a month ago, and his house was on Facebook for $210,000. And I was like, "Who's gonna be buying this thing off Facebook?"
I know.
I think you're gonna write a check and show up to your door. Here's $210,000. Hand me the keys. So I didn't know that. I always thought you need to go through a realtor. Have to pay a realtor fee at least, like because isn't there like a commission fee or something like no?
No, you can sell privately. So like. A lot of agents, part of their prospecting plan is to call for sale by owners.
Right.
So you basically just look at Craigslist is one of the biggest places that they post them.
Yeah.
Or you drive around neighborhoods and find makeshift for sale signs that an owner has built out of their garage.
Okay, sorry. Before I cut you off there, so you had this 2.5 month license, or you 2.5 months to get the license, and then you were working under Jamie for a bit.
Yeah.
So what from there?
Came in completely blind, man. It's a business that takes a long time to learn, and the first 6 months you're just kind of like trying to absorb as much information as possible, and it's a lot of like behind the scenes researching things that you don't understand, and the first year was nuts. It was crazy. It was a lot of hours for very, very minimal gain.
Right.
It was a lot of shadowing. It was a lot of asking questions. And it's, looking back, I think it's absolutely ridiculous that someone with zero experience like that and not knowing what to do was literally allowed to sell someone's $1 million house.
So you're just basically there putting up a front and trying to talk to these people, knowing in your head you're pretty damn scared and like trying to not show that.
It's intimidating for sure, because most of the people you work with, what they're selling is their biggest investment.
Right.
So there's a ton of responsibility that goes along with it. And hiring someone who doesn't know what the hell they're doing, like you could leave $50,000 on the table or more, just because of their lack of experience. So there should be a better training program. Is there going to be? Probably not.
Do you find that your age is an issue for you sometimes in trying to get a prospective client or whatnot? Because I know, for example, like you said, it is some people's biggest asset. And when they look at you and you're in your 20s, they're like, hey, maybe I want somebody with more experience, somebody that's older looking. Essentially, that doesn't mean that you can't sell the house better than they are, but it's just from a human perspective. You see somebody that's 45, you're like, that guy seems to be more mature, seems to know more, have more experience about the market. Maybe he can sell my house better than this guy.
That's why I grew a beard.
Actually,
no, just kidding. I'd say 98% of the time, no.
Yeah.
There's the occasional client that's
just an old school person.
Totally. Yeah. That the first question they ask you is experience. How long have you been in the business?
Yeah.
And my response to that always is, look at my last 5 years. I don't think anyone in Greater Vancouver, maybe a handful of people, have sold as many properties as I have in the last 5 years. So sure, you can go with someone who's been in the business for 35 years, who doesn't know how to use the internet or social media or promote or advertise.
Right.
Or you go with someone who, a lot of those older people are working only off referral basis. So they're not prospecting. They're not really doing a lot of the extras that we do because we're growing.
Yes.
So it's just the new school versus old school. Some people understand the power of the internet.
Yeah.
And some people have no clue.
Right.
So it's more so when we're in listing appointments that we're explaining our competitive advantage in terms of like how we promote on the internet.
Yeah.
And social media.
Right.
And a lot of people, not a lot, but a handful of people that are older, it just kind of goes over their head and they don't understand.
Yeah.
So I find more people being not understanding that side of it rather than like being young.
Yeah. Do you take the time to try to, I guess, tell these people about these things, or do you just move on? You're like, there's no point. Like, they're going to have the same mindset regardless of what I tell them and what information I provide them, facts, stats.
Yeah. You totally have to adjust. So our listing appointments for most listing appointments, we're talking about our social media impact, how many people are going to see the ads that we boost on Facebook.
Yeah.
That our website Google rank is the best in New Westminster, second page in Burnaby, second page of Google. I'm like, we're getting better in other cities, but New West, we come up first.
Right. Yeah.
Talk about SEO and like how much content we have and professional photos and how all those little details. But you can tell early on if someone's just kind of glossing over and it's confusing to older people.
Right.
And then so we'll kind of switch into, well, we also do flyers. Well, we also sell a ton
in
in this
old
neighborhood.
School, traditional media. Yeah. Huh. So what's next? Where do you see, I see you guys have a lot of hiring ads out right now. So maybe give me and Carl 2.5 months. We're going to be sending in our application till we get that license. What's next? And do you have like a grant? Like, is there a 10-year goal or like what you guys eventually see Greater Duma being?
For sure. It's not really in terms of like numbers, but we want to be the best small team in Greater Vancouver. So we don't want to be the biggest team. There's teams out there right now that have 40 agents that is a lot of people managing, which isn't necessarily our strength. But we want to be probably 2 to 3 times the size we are now in terms of sales and being known as the best real estate marketers in BC.
What were your sales numbers last year?
Last year we sold 163 properties that totaled 120 million.
Holy smokes. That's incredible.
So that put us the number 12 team in Greater Vancouver.
Right, and that's just, oh, wow. So you're slowly moving up. You're going to get there sooner or later.
Slowly.
What do you see in terms of technology and how it's going to affect your guys' industry. So, for example, even there's things to do with real estate. Like if I was to buy a property, there could be potential things in 5, 10, 15, 20 years to do with blockchain that would take out things such as a notary or having to actually get my my documents notarized, because I no longer need to prove that I actually own this place because it's in a blockchain.
Yeah.
Right. So if I was to sell the car, I don't have to give them paper documents. I don't have to sign paper documents. I don't need somebody to proof that I actually own this place because it's in the database. And also things like virtual reality, right? Instead of having to physically go and see the place. For example, if I'm looking at a listing in Nashville, I'm able to just, I don't know, put on a headset or go on the computer and actually virtually see this place, see furniture being put into the room and how it fits and all that. So how do you see technology affecting your guys' industry?
That stuff is so cool, and I'm excited about where it's going. I just think it's so far off in our industry that I don't know much about it yet.
Right.
But the idea of it is super cool and exciting.
Yeah.
For me, more on like ground level, in a big picture, I think the brokerage model is changing. So in the past, pre-internet, literally being part of a big brokerage, Remax Sutton, was super important because there was no internet, there was no MLS. So literally you just had a binder of paper listings that you had to go into the office to flip through to find houses for clients. So being part of a brokerage that had 300 or 400 or 500 agents was more beneficial because there was more listings available in your binder. So now obviously there's no binders. There's the internet and MLS. So that there still is big brokerages like that, but their market share is going down in terms of number of agents with them. There's a lot of new small boutique brokerages popping up, and I think that's what's going to happen and going to overtake those big companies, kind of like Amazon is taking over bookstores. There's going to be a lot of little boutique brokerages because the names don't matter anymore. Right.
Do you guys see a difference in how you guys want to present the house? So obviously it's always been pictures. Like is more video coming? Is there going to be, I don't know, like some type of augmented reality walkthrough or something like that, like a 3D walkthrough or whatnot? Because I know what a lot of, and like what you guys do too, is you try to take obviously photos and try to optimize the angles of it to make things look bigger or whatnot, to try to draw people through into the place. What I've always thought is, it does make a difference, right? It makes a difference in terms of attracting interest, but does it make an interest in actually selling the place? Because, for example, I don't know how big. Carl, how big's your place?
This place?
Yeah.
550?
It's 550 square feet. So if you take, I don't know, some optimal angle from the bottom there and try to show it like it's supposed to be 1,000 square feet, like at some point I have to physically come and see this place, right? So, I mean, all that does is attract people, but do you see there's something other than maybe taking photos from like a different angle that you guys are trying or want to try in the future to attract people or make people have a better idea of what the place is like and how they can see themselves fitting in there?
Yeah. It is what it is, right?
Yeah.
You're selling a condo for this example. This one is a 550 square foot, 1-bedroom condo in Coquitlam.
Yes.
I won't give away your address. So it is what it is. There's a certain buyer pool that's looking for that specific product. And our job as real estate marketers is how do we get as much exposure as possible to this one listing to have as many people see it as possible. Right. So the idea is that when you hire us, you get more people in the door because we market better, because we get the unit in front of more eyes
and it's just
than anyone else.
Game at that point.
When you're in the door, if you don't like it, if you don't like the location, if you don't think it's too small,
there's nothing you can do.
I'm not going to oversell you on, stainless steel appliances. They are what they are, right?
Yeah.
But our job is to
get people in.
Yeah, exactly. And there's so many agents that when you go through an open house, they're just talking to you about everything, being like, look at the laminate floors. There's the stainless steel appliances, whatever. Yeah. Whereas like our approach is educate people in the neighborhood.
Yes.
Tell them what's around you, how far it is to SkyTrain, to restaurants, to
because that's
schools,
the important
whatever.
stuff, right? Like laminate
everything
floor,
else is superficial, right?
You can see it.
Yeah.
Or people decide based on paint color.
Yeah. Like you said, like if you're selling stainless steel stuff, like I can come in here and I can physically see it, right? And if I don't like it, it ends up being a couple $100, maybe $1,000 change.
Exactly.
Compared to like, hey, if the SkyTrain station is too many blocks away, or it's like a sketchy neighborhood or something.
Yeah.
So
especially with the market increasing so much in the last couple of years, is a huge population of people are moving east. Right. So a lot of people grew up in Vancouver or Burnaby are moving to other cities that they're not that familiar with. So our job is to educate them on amenities around them.
Right.
Not tell them that the cabinets are brown.
One last thing. Favorite part of your job?
It's adjusting. It at the beginning it was social interaction and just meeting tons of different people that have completely different experiences from me. I learn best, I think, from just chatting with people,
right,
and hearing different experiences. So social interaction and just like the high of the sale. Sales for me, I think, is a natural fit just because of how competitive I am and how I'm driven by achieving goals. And so setting sales goals is easy in our industry. And so every deal is just like another step closer to the goal. But it's adjusting into, and with the growth of our team, we now have 4 other realtors other than Jamie and I. So it's more of a leadership, mentorship type of role, which I love.
Yeah.
And it's a cool opportunity for me. I didn't really know how much I knew about this industry, but with other guys on our team now asking questions and me just being able to give them advice no matter what is going on.
Yeah.
It's cool to see how much I've actually learned in a very short period of time.
Right.
And now I'm kind of taking it outside of our team specifically, but that's what is very exciting to me is conversations like this, just kind of shooting the shit, bouncing ideas off each other. Like on Friday afternoon, I went for a beer with someone who runs from STM actually, who runs a digital media advertising company, and just like bouncing ideas off each other and sharing experiences. If I can be of help to young people getting into our industry met with a young mortgage broker who just got a license and just wanted ideas and advice on how to get off the ground. Like that kind of stuff is very humbling to be in a position like that where people are asking for advice, but it's super exciting. And yeah.
Do you find it a little nerve-wracking to be, hey, maybe I give somebody, I don't know, the wrong piece of advice or something that worked for me but might not work for every other circumstance, and they take that and they kind of use it, but it doesn't turn out the way you had expected it, and then you kind of feel that pressure because it's like, hey, I told them to do this.
Yeah.
Does that ever cross your mind?
Maybe advice is the wrong word, but it's more just like sharing my experience, what worked for me,
right?
The struggles that I went through early on in the career in the first year and a half, and just saying like, everyone goes through this. This is normal.
Yeah.
You're not going to make any money for the first 6 months, so you need to be prepared for that. Like, how do you get through it? How do you get through those mental thoughts of, and I had these all the time at the beginning, was like, wake up in the morning and be like, holy shit, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? My bank account's going down every month. I don't have any money. I have a mortgage. Like, am I ever going to succeed at this thing? So just kind of getting through those negative mental thoughts early in the career.
Yeah. Actually, one more thing. Sorry, this just popped up in my head. Can you go through what a normal day looks like for you? Because it's not a consistent, like, for example, I'm an accountant, so I just go to work 9 to 5 and I sit at a desk, right? What does a normal day look like for you? What time do you start? What time do you end? And everything in between.
I think the idea of normal day doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And it changes based on time of year. So our very busy season is kind of February to July. So in those months, I've gotten into fitness a lot in the last year and a half. So usually wake up around 6, work out and run, back to in front of the computer at 7:30 to 9:30, 10 is just like emails / paperwork / prepping for appointments coming up, etc. And then again, every day is different, but often appointments start at 11 to could be 8, 9 p.m.
Right.
And it's everything from listing appointments to buyer showings to negotiations to meeting with clients to sign paperwork. Like every day is completely different, but
how do you entertain yourself for the drives? Like, does it suck to have to commute everywhere and kind of drive around the city? And
yes and no. And I've often thought about getting a driver just because I could be so much more productive. It's like in busy season, I'm probably in the car at least 3 hours a day.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of time.
But it's not
that
like
I'm just
3
doing
hours
nothing.
total, right? Because it's annoying. It could be like 15 minutes here, 45 minutes there.
Yeah, totally. But sitting in traffic on the way to an appointment that takes you 45 minutes, you just feel like you could be doing so much more with your time than sitting there. Gotten into podcasts a lot. Gary Vee is number one. Listen to a little bit of Tim Ferriss, experimented with some other stuff too, but I just find myself going back to Gary Vee all the time.
Yeah. Oh, and that's something we're going to talk about after the break. So I think this is actually a good time to take a break. We're going to take a break right here. And then after the break, we are going to talk about sort of self-development, self-help, motivation, social media, fitness, and the rest of it. Something other than business-related stuff.
Beauty. Like it.
BeatParky.com, TeaParky.com, is a company founded by the host of this podcast, Michael Chung, that sells loose leaf tea, matcha, and apparel to raise funds and awareness for Parkinson's disease. Use the promo code PODCAST for 10% off your entire purchase and help Michael, #BeatParky.
All right, welcome back to the BeatParky podcast, the 7th episode. This will be the second segment with our guest, Denny Dumas. So you started off, and I had asked you about your height, your weight, and one kind of sentence to describe yourself. Mm-hmm. And you said you were fucked. Explain a little more into that.
Okay. As an outsider, or someone that doesn't know me, it sounds arrogant to say that about yourself, but it really is just, I think my mind works a little bit differently. A lot of the perspectives and like how obsessed I get with goals is unrelatable to a lot of people. And so even like friends and family talking about it. I had a conversation with my dad the other day, and he's one of the things he said to me was, you got to slow down. You're going to burn yourself out.
Right.
And my response to that is, I can't breathe if I'm not working at this capacity.
Yeah.
Like it just, I'm anxious if I'm not.
Right. Or like you're bored, like you just always want to be doing it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So even my dad doesn't understand. So how I describe that is, I'm a little bit fucked.
But why fucked? Because when people say fucked, it seems like it's a negative connotation about it, right? So do you see that as like a negative thing? Like it's a blessing and a curse?
For me, it works.
Right.
It's, I don't know how to describe it other than it just works for my personality, for who I am. But for a lot of people looking to me, they think it's unhappy.
Yes.
So maybe that's why I say fuck. Like my dad is saying, you're going to have health issues if you don't slow down.
Right.
Maybe
That's what he's telling me.
Maybe people just think that you're like working so hard to hide something or get away from something else.
Totally.
But you're not.
And
not
it's
at
the
all.
opposite.
Yeah.
It makes me so happy.
But how much of that is majority of people? I'd say probably 90% of people hate their jobs, right?
Yeah.
Like a 9 to 5, look forward to the Friday. Like I can't wait for the weekend. Oh, I wake up, I got to go work again. But you love what you do.
Yeah.
Like how much of that is like, hell, like if you told me I could play golf every day or whatever, but like if you told your dad he could play golf or whatever he loves to do every day, like he wouldn't see that as a job, and he would love to do it as much as possible.
Totally. And a lot of people like look at it as just like a lot of work, whereas for me it's long-term goals, and this is just part of the process to get there. Right. Like I do really like real estate and a lot about it, but there's lots of things that I don't like about it.
Yeah.
But it's more just like Gary Vee talks about this all the time, is like fall in love with the process, not the outcome.
Yes.
Or not the specific thing that you're doing, but just the idea of getting to a goal. Yeah. And so that's what it is for me.
Basically just journey over destination, right?
Because you can't control the outcome, right? But you can always control the process. That's smart.
100%.
Yeah.
And like part of the reason I want to start the vlog is to just show what it's actually like to be self-employed and to do it. In busy season, it's nuts, man. It's literally like 7 a.m. to 2 a.m. every day, 7 days a week for 5 months. And so literally at home, I'll get home at like 9 or 10. I'll make dinner, watch TV for an hour, and then like back to work for a couple hours on the computer. And like it's insane to actually do that and to enjoy doing that. But at the same time, I'm like headphones on, I'm like dancing while working, and it's just it's so much fun. Yeah. So to be able to actually show that to the public is a challenge. And I don't know the right way to do it. Maybe it's just trial and error and just like videotape yourself dancing one night at 2 a.m. and post it and see what happens. Yeah. I don't know, but that's kind of what I want to show people, is that it's not so much the desire to make more money or whatever. It's more just like how do I continue to grow every day? Yeah, yeah. How do I get better at my job? How do I get better as a person every day? And that's just, I don't know. Do you find do you wish you weren't wired this way? Because obviously there's a lot of people out there that are ultra successful. You'll get like the Elon Musk types that
have that same personal drive and that same mentality and the wiring in their head. And sometimes they say it can be a blessing and a curse, right? It's a blessing because it's what got them to that position, but they can't ever turn it off.
Yeah.
So it's like they can't ever relax. It's always got to be what's the next thing. Like nothing is ever really, I don't want to say good enough, but like there's always something more to be achieved and something to strive for more. Like, do you find that sometimes it might be a bit too much and like nothing really satisfies or like makes you happy? Do you ever take the time to stop and look back once in a while to see what you've accomplished and like actually celebrate it? Because a lot of people that get to like certain parts or are successful don't celebrate as much, right? Sometimes I take a look back and it's like the number one thing I clown, actually, we're gonna talk about social media later, but the number one thing I clown is people who like graduate high school or university and celebrate that stuff and post it like high school graduation. Like everybody posts pictures and like, oh, I'm so proud to graduate high school. And it's like, why are you celebrating this? Like it should be just a given, right? Like that's it. Like it's a point, it's a step in everybody's life and you just keep going. Like, why are you celebrating this? Do you ever find that you do that yourself?
Yes and no. I'd say mostly no, because I don't think I'm anywhere near where I want to be.
Yes.
So, and that's one of the things that people don't understand. So that's where I use the word fucked instead of like mentally different. I don't know. Yeah. But is that just where I want to be is so far away from where I am now that yes, I'm doing well, and yes, I'm on the right path, and yeah, I'm having a blast. But in terms of long-term goals, I have so much room to get better. And people comment on my social media saying that it's gotten a lot better, you're fun to watch, whatever. Yeah. And it's hard to not react the way I want to, because the way I want to react is I think I suck. I think I'm
just getting started.
Exactly. Yeah. And I look at other dudes, and it's easy to compare yourself or want to be like a Gary Vee or want to be like a celebrity that has 3 million followers and is literally just doing what they want every day, and people fall in love with it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I have a lot of room to improve, but at the same time, I'm just having a blast. So I don't necessarily think I celebrate things, rather than just like enjoy every
the whole
day.
Process.
Yeah.
So how do you goal set? This is something I had actually thought about myself. I get so caught up in sort of the near term. I do have like, obviously, sort of like Gary Vee says, the clouds and the dirt, right? You have the clouds, kind of the big picture vision, but I don't set any goals, and I'm going to start doing this more, and I've kind of thought about it consciously for the past month or so. I don't set any goals like a 1 month goal, a 1 year goal, a 5 year goal. Like, how do I get the steps to get to where I want to be in the very end, right? Because obviously if you have this grand vision and it's a lot bigger than what you currently have right now, it can be intimidating if you don't have these little steps along the way, right? So,
or exciting.
Yeah, or exciting. I guess, that's another way to think about it. But do you set goals to kind of bridge this ladder in this gap from where you currently are and where you want to be? And how is your goal setting process?
It's not structured at all. They're not written down. They're in my head. I talk about them with a select few people because people usually laugh or have negative.
Are you comfortable sharing them?
100%. We want to be when I say we, me and Jamie in terms of real estate stuff, but we want to be the best marketing team in Greater Vancouver. And that probably is, in terms of sales numbers, probably 300 to 350 million a year in sales. And last year we were 120.
But how do you differentiate? Because you said best marketing team, but then you also did that with the metric of sales. Like, how do you kind of differentiate the two, or is it all combined together?
Obviously, sales is easy to track.
Yeah, because marketing is really hard to track.
Best marketing team.
Yeah.
Is there any platform that says I'm better than you or you're better than me? Probably not.
Yeah.
But it's marketing stuff is growing our social media, growing our personal brands so that our business will grow naturally behind it.
Right.
The more followers you have, the more people that see properties, right?
Yep,
you can always pay for ads, and those are good too. Right. And done the correct way right now, they can get a lot of exposure. I think we have a lot of room to grow on the marketing side as well, and it's not so much like a specific number or idea, it's more just like continual growth.
Right.
Maybe down the road that's VR stuff, like who knows what it's going to be. So we don't have like specifics in that way. We have specifics in numbers, but we need a few good people to get there. And we feel like where we are right now, we're a person or two away from, for lack of a better word, exploding, like improving a lot.
Yes. Yeah.
We feel like we were last year for sure tapped out where we were. And so it's really just
expanding,
finding the right people that are going to help us get over that next step.
Do you have any other goals? Is it just kind of the one?
I've always wanted to get into VC stuff just to, I like risk, and maybe that's a good thing or a bad thing when you're 29. I don't know. But, so I want to help people, and whether that's monetary or advice, just through my experience, etc. I would like to get into VC stuff down the road, but probably more near future stuff is real estate development.
Okay.
So we've got our first project on the go right now. We being Jamie and I again, that is like a 2-dwelling property in New West. So we want that to turn into maybe like a 12 townhouse complex in a couple of years, and then hopefully into low-rise development, and who knows where that goes.
Right. For VC stuff, actually, it's interesting because I've taken a look into it a bit. Obviously, I don't have the wealth or the net worth in order to become an accredited investor. So there's obviously different ways to look at it and different ways to do it. So, I mean, in the past couple of years, crowdfunding has been a huge thing, equity crowdfunding, to where you can invest something as little as $500 and you can get a certain percentage of a company, a new company. So there's websites like frontfunder.com that'll list a whole bunch of different businesses that are looking for money. So generally half of them will be like breweries or whatnot that are starting out that would like some money in exchange for shares. Have you ever thought about doing something like that or looking into something like that?
I haven't. Right. I'm at a point now in my career where I have a little bit more free time to start exploring other options.
Yes.
Whereas the last 4 years have just been like 100% real estate all the time, every day.
Right.
So no, but that's on the list.
Yeah. Because I'd imagine you'd want to dabble in and see kind of what industries interest you, because it may be completely different, and seeing the insides of these companies before you kind of go all in and start making more heavier investments into some of these.
For sure. I am not educated at all, really, but in terms of anything outside of real estate at the moment.
What would interest you?
Like
just currently right now?
Technology and social interest me a lot.
Yeah.
Not that I know much about it.
It's also the bigger money plays, right? You can exponentially increase your money quite a bit if you hit the right companies.
That's the problem, is that it's probably down the road a while for me because you need so much capital to get into that kind of stuff. So I don't know. I will definitely follow along more with new technology and new social platforms moving forward now that I understand the current ones kind of thing.
Right.
Whereas in high school and growing up, I just kind of ignored them. So,
any other goals? Do you find that your goals constantly change over time? Obviously, like we're still in our 20s. Like every 3 months, you may have a different perspective, whether it's on life or something else, and everything changes, right? What you had wanted 3 months ago and thought you would want in 40 years is no longer something that interests you. How often do your goals change?
Like the big ones, not rarely.
Yeah.
But they've only really come to fruition maybe in the last few years. Like getting into real estate, I literally had no idea what to expect. And year one, I wanted to literally, my goal is to survive. So I got my license in April 2014, and my goal was to do 1 deal a month for those next 8 months. So to do 8 deals, and whatever that amounts to in income, I thought I could survive doing 1 deal a month, and I did 17 in 8 months. So you learn a lot doing 17 deals in your first 8 months. And then obviously your goal for year 2 changes. I thought I would do like 8 and then 20 and then see where it goes kind of thing. So I did 17, and then my goal for year 2 was to do 40. So do like just over 3 a month. And I had told a couple people that, and they're like, you need to make realistic goals.
Right.
Like, you're not going to do that in your second year, blah, blah. And I had 76 in year 2.
Holy smokes.
And then, of course, with a little bit more success comes a new goal and a new idea.
Right, yeah.
So rather than like personal goals, it was more like, okay, how do we get a team structure together so that we can do more deals because we're capping ourselves out doing
Right.
100 plus deals a year.
Yeah.
And so it shifted from, like, I always had this goal getting into real estate to make 6 figures. That was like the big thing. I'd never been anywhere close to that before.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I thought, if I can make 6 figures for the rest of my life,
You'd be
every
laughing.
year,
Yeah.
be super happy, be comfortable to live in Vancouver, whatever.
Yeah.
And so as you gain a little bit of traction and you crush a goal, like trying to do 40 and doing almost double,
Yeah.
then you're like, okay, maybe I'm good at this thing. How do we grow it even further?
Yeah.
So then it's more like team environment and how do we grow our brand rather than just trying to do as many deals as you can.
Right. Did you do better than you had? I guess you set goals, but were you a lot better at this than you expected yourself to be?
For sure.
Or was it like, hey, I've got this personality, so if I just spend enough time and I attach myself to this, I will actually eventually get to that point where I'm very good at it?
I didn't know. I didn't know anything about the real estate industry really. And
because let me actually, before you answer this, let me cut you off. So we had this discussion, I can't even remember when, but I had asked you briefly how you got into it and you were telling me all this stuff. And I asked you why you worked so hard into this. And you said because you had been shitting literally everything else in your life before this and you didn't want real estate to be the exact same thing. I don't even remember saying that.
That's true.
And I was like, holy smokes, like this is crazy. Like the mindset that you have, and like one, you clearly weren't shit at any of the other stuff you did before. Like you were a fantastic athlete. But it's the mindset, right? And it's like at that point, I kind of figured, even if it wasn't real estate, whether it was freaking working at RBC, if you were still at RBC for the rest of your life, like eventually you would get to the point where you just have this personality that you'd be so good at it. So I don't know if you see it that way or if you had expected it from yourself.
It's just perspective. Like sure, I was good in high school. Sure, I was good on a provincial team. But when you put yourself against like the best of the best,
yes,
I sucked.
Yeah.
So that's more what I look at, and it's so weird to say this because it sounds like super arrogant, but like I almost like failing better than succeeding. It's a weird thing to say, but I don't know, you learn so much more. When you win, when you succeed, you become soft.
Right.
When you lose, when you fail, when you're humiliated, you become a lot harder.
Right.
And mentally tougher, for me anyway.
Yeah.
And through any of those like adversities growing up, through a loss in sports or losing the national final twice, or my dad having financial problems and me literally not knowing what to do, or whatever, I think about it as I have 2 options. One is to not give a fuck and just move on and use it as a learning experience. 2 is to dwell and likely get soft and go nowhere or waste 3 months of my life dwelling on this.
Right.
And I just really don't like option 2.
Yeah. I always say this a lot too. I mean, the whole podcast and like literally everything I've done recently is predicated on my dad having Parkinson's, and how a lot of people will go into that predicament and they see it as like a loss and they feel sorry for themselves. Or a lot of people play the victim card. And at the same time, I understand it's very easy to do it. I mean, like, fuck, the circumstances suck. But then at the same time, like you said, like what choice is there really? Like, how is this helping the situation? It's not really doing anything. You're not benefiting from it, right? So why not try to take option 1, like you said, and just run with it and see what happens? But a lot of people can't get that mindset down. And you're right. I think it's literally all mindset and what people do to train their mindset. So you mentioned you listen to a lot of podcasts, Gary Vee, Tim Ferriss, and these guys are very motivational. They give you practical stuff to think about to train your mindset every day. But did you always have this mindset? Or was there like...
Yeah, so I don't really even necessarily use it as motivation. And Gary Vee is the biggest one. For me, it's more, it gave me freedom because I had a lot of the thoughts in my head growing up that he talks about. I just didn't know how to express them.
Right.
Because whenever I did, I got negative feedback. So it's more, rather than motivation, it's more just like the freedom to understand that other people think like that.
Right. What's your favorite Gary Vee principle or principle that you've? Okay, I like that.
Question mark.
I like that.
I'm gonna tattoo it on my body.
Actually,
yeah.
Where would you get a tattoo?
Somewhere not noticeable. I don't have any tattoos.
It's like
it'd probably be like right here on the inside of my arm or something.
So why do you like that one? That's basically just predicated on no excuses, right?
Yeah.
Why that one over everything else?
Because it basically sums up what I just talked about. So like, anytime you encounter adversity, you have 2 options. 1, you get through it and get better and learn from the experience, or
Right.
2, you dwell and get worse.
Right.
And basically means literally anything. Your dad went bankrupt, and like, who cares? No one is going to give you anything because of that. You're
Right.
not entitled to anything. The world doesn't owe you anything.
Yeah.
If you work harder, you're going to be better. You're going to get better.
Right. And people like may feel sorry for you, but it doesn't mean you're going to be in a better position than you currently were.
That's the worst when people feel sorry
yeah.
for you. I don't want that.
So what do you do for personal growth? Obviously, this is a very important thing to you.
Mm-hmm.
I actually call it like self-help, self-development. And I'm always like, every time I go to chapters, that's the first section I go to, like self-help, self-development. And there's always a negative vibe around it. People are like, oh, is there something wrong with you? But I feel like people who are insecure about that and not wanting to develop themselves more in personal growth, I feel like that is an insecurity in and of itself, to basically think you're good enough already and not want to constantly improve every single day. What things do you do? Do you read? You said you listen to podcasts. Like, do you take the time to maybe self-reflect, meditate, or something like that? Like, do you kind of make a conscious effort to sort of get better every day and improve your mindset? And
Yeah, and I've always believed, I don't know where I heard this as a kid, and it was related to sports at the time, but I take it more in personal life now, is that every day you either get better or worse. There's no such thing as staying the same. So that was like a basketball thing for me. So, and I took it pretty seriously in terms of like trying to get more shots up every day,
Right.
you know, whatever it was. And so now I've kind of relayed that over to personal life.
right.
And I don't read. I don't like the time commitment that reading entails.
What about audiobooks? Have you ever thought about audiobooks? Do you listen to podcasts?
I don't know. I haven't tried audiobooks. Maybe I should. I just am not super interested in books.
Right.
I get more out of like a real life experience.
Yes. Like a conversation.
Or people talking about their experiences.
Right.
One of my favorite things is what Gary Vee calls his pod sessions.
Yeah.
Where he has three
guys,
three
and they
people
just
in like
shoot the
completely
shit,
different,
basically. Yeah.
completely different industries that he asks one question to, and you get 3 completely different answers because of, you know, what they do for a living,
personal
right?
experiences.
And so that kind of stuff I really like. And then just in the last year, it's been like more going out of my way to be more social and have conversations with people that are like-minded, like that one I had on Friday.
Yeah. Do you take the time to self-reflect? Do you self-reflect a lot?
Rarely.
Rarely.
Yeah.
So you're just all about basically just moving forward, whatever happened. But isn't there also value in self-reflecting? Say, for example, you say you take your failures, you like losing more than winning. But in order to actually understand what losing teaches you and how to get better from that so it doesn't happen again, don't you have to kind of take a step back and sort of analyze what happened? Where did we go wrong? Why did we fail? And then try not to do that again in the future?
One of the weird things, I had a couple of friends tell me this, is that I am like over the top rational. So like while I'm going through something that is very difficult, which I did this summer, I'm like completely level-headed and can understand that what I'm going through rather than just like being emotional about it.
Right.
So yeah, I can understand that looking back and reflecting on feeling or emotion or however that situation had affected you can be helpful. I feel like I do that as I'm going through it.
Right, which is super key because a lot of people make irrational decisions, and which is why they fail based on emotions at the current time.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
So, for example, in July, had some personal issues. Called one of my friends the day that I like all this stuff came up, and I'm crying uncontrollably, and what I said to him was, I just want to fully experience how painful this is so that I avoid this situation forever moving forward.
Right. And a lot of people don't do that, right? A lot of people
No,
come across something and they just kind of hide it, and then it just it eventually just keeps coming up over and over and over again, right? That's actually like, have you always had this
Isn't that
ability
a weird?
to...
That's a weird. Like, that's part of the reason that I think I'm mentally weird, is because that's a weird thing to think.
Yes, yeah. A lot of people want to suppress pain or
Yeah.
emotional pain, physical pain as fast as possible, even if it means they may feel it later on and it just continues to linger, right?
Exactly.
Have you always been able to analyze things in the current moment and kind of take a step back while you're doing things?
Later in life, not that I'm old, but with sports, I was super emotional growing up.
Right.
I would it was insane. My parents would tell me I couldn't come in the house until I stopped crying and stuff like that from losing basketball games and swearing and whatever. So I don't know, maybe just from like the idea that I lose at everything, that I'm just getting comfortable with it. I'm not sure,
Right.
But no, not always. It's been more in the last 5 years, maybe.
Do you purposely lose or try to put yourself in positions where, say, for example, you've had so much success with your company so quickly that it's hard to basically see that there's that many losses along the way, although obviously there are, as you're probably aware of. Do you put yourself in positions where you probably have a 99% fail rate because just so you know, like, I guess you provide instances where you fail?
I don't think I think about it that way, but I think about, I understand and spend more time on the failures than the wins. So winning could be like the biggest sale in New Westminster's history,
Right.
whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Awesome. High five, have a beer that night, on to the next.
Right.
Whereas like if something doesn't, it's real estate related obviously, but if something doesn't do as well as we thought and it sells under, the number that we thought, we're spending a lot of time thinking, okay, how can we get better? What could we have done that maybe would have given that a different result or got more people in? And we're spending a lot more time on that rather than a win. So that's just one small example, but I think I do that in personal life as well.
Yeah.
I'm more aware of the failures or adversity than I am of the wins.
Do you ever go through stretches where you aren't as motivated?
For sure.
Yeah, I think that happens to everybody, but obviously you're still motivated to a certain degree, but there will be stretches where you are more motivated. And how do you get out of it, or do you just kind of realize that it's just part of the nature of humans and just basically ride it out? Or do you find something to motivate yourself?
Talking business specifically, like our industry is very cyclical. So there's busy times and there's slow times. So in terms of being less motivated, it's easy to kind of program yourself to be less motivated in the slow times. I don't know. I think I just get this anxiety. It's so weird. Like, for example, this August I took pretty easy. I still work every day, but instead of 12 to 14 hours, it was like 5. So I'm still like, and talking to other people being like, yeah, I had a slow week. I worked 45 hours. Like, what do you mean? So people don't understand it. And it's 7 days, right? So if you're working 4 or 5 hours a day,
it adds up.
It's pretty minimal to me. I'm like going on hikes and doing runs and working out and then going out with friends at night and working for 4 hours. And that's 30 plus hours a week, whatever it is. So where were we talking
about? Finding motivation.
Oh,
personally motivating yourself.
Like
when you aren't
so I just get anxious. Like that, again, it goes back to the drive and what I'm happy doing, and that's building a business, working. And when I'm not doing that, it's a weird feeling.
Can you sit at home and do nothing?
Super rarely.
So you'll just like have the urge to do, like, you can't just sit at home and just maybe, like, I don't know, like for a week straight, just go home every day and just watch TV and just do nothing.
No, I have a hard time doing that for an hour.
That's crazy.
Like today, for example, today the Seahawks playing, go Seahawks. I'll tape the games every Sunday because I'm usually doing open houses or whatever.
Yep.
And I'll watch the games at 6:00. But while I'm watching the game, my computer's on my lap and I'm answering emails or doing something.
Right.
Just one, I hate the idea of like falling behind, but I don't know. I feel like there's always something to do when you're self-employed. There's always something that can improve, whether it's social media, internet, like your website, client interaction. You can always go back through past clients and send emails and follow-ups and just say, how you're doing, how's your daughter, whatever. Right. There's always something you can do to improve. Yeah. And so the idea of just wasting time on something that potentially could help our business down the road makes me anxious.
Yeah. And I guess that's sort of a pro and con of self-employment, right? But at the same time, literally every hour you put in is going to be better for your bottom line and you're getting more money. Whereas if you work a 9-to-5 job, if you're working at RBC or whatever, no matter how much time you put in and how much extra time you think about these things, you're only getting paid that wage, right? Mm-hmm. The annual salary. You may not have an answer for this. I'm gonna put you on the spot here.
I'll have an answer.
Oh, okay. Is there a piece of motivation that you think is very commonly put out there that a lot of people talk about that isn't true? Like a piece of motivation, or not motivation, but a piece of like self-help, self-development, a theory that a lot of people talk about, whether it could be, I don't know, obviously I know this to be true, and we talk about this, and you're probably well aware, but like gratitude and patience and all this stuff. Is there a giant theory out there that you know or don't think is true?
Nothing is coming to mind right away. So while I'm thinking, I'm going to go off on a little tangent.
Okay.
I think that everyone motivates himself in a different way. So the idea of like reading a book on this one item doesn't make sense to me because I likely won't agree with a lot of what they're saying.
Yes.
So even like having conversations with people about Gary Vee and saying, oh, he's so motivational, he's so one-sided. And my thought is that's not really his message. His message is line your work ethic up with your ambition, right? So if you want to own the Jets like him, you better work harder than everyone else in the world.
Yes.
If you want to make, X amount of dollars, you better put in the work to get there.
Right.
If you want to, retire at 45, you're probably not, you're probably going to work weekends and you're probably going to do extras or get a second job or whatever. You're not going to go on 36 vacations a year.
Yeah.
So I guess the point I was trying to say is that I think just everyone gets motivated in a different way and different details motivate different people.
Right. I think that's true too. And even I swear by Gary Vee as well, but at the same time, it's like I don't agree with 100% of the stuff he says. And actually, one of my friends once told me something along the lines of, there's nothing more arrogant than a person who is 100% sure about something, right? Mm-hmm. Like if you're 100% sure about something, it literally leaves no room that you could be wrong. And there's nothing more arrogant than that because there isn't really a statement you can make about anything in life that 100% of people will agree with.
Yeah.
So there's not something that's 100% true ever. Which is so the point you make is actually fantastic.
Part of the reason I like him though is because he acknowledges that, right? He'll say, this is what works for me.
Right.
Whether it's going to work for you or not, that's up to you to decide.
Right.
He talks about self-awareness, right? Figuring out who you are, what motivates you, what things you need to do to get to where you're going. But it's not for everyone. Yeah. And he's very open about that.
Yeah. And he always talks about if you want to work less and you want to be on 3 softball teams or whatever, makes you happy, right? Yeah.
And he looks at it the other way and says, I'm almost jealous. I just can't function like that.
Right. Which is what we had talked about before, right? Just the drive and it's kind of a blessing and a curse, right? Because you can't really ever turn it off, but at the same time, it literally helps you in so many different scenarios and gets you to where you are and the success and all that.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. All right, let's get into the last topic here. Carl, you might want to get back on the mic for this one because it's maybe a heated discussion.
Carl's going to have a lot to say about this.
Social media. Yes. Okay, so so our producer Carl does not have social media other than a Facebook account, but he doesn't have Instagram, doesn't have... Actually, I think he goes on Twitter a bit.
Just because of this podcast.
Is there a reason why you don't use social media?
I guess I just don't see a benefit like you guys do.
So what do you mean by benefit? Because you
well, I mean, what's your end goal with?
But you go to Reddit and you look at all these memes and everything. A lot of people use social media for entertainment. You can use it to keep up with, I don't know, athletes, celebrities, even your friends. People use it to market products. There's a whole bunch of different uses for it.
But like you said, I get all that from Reddit, right? I guess I'm more.
But Reddit, I guess Reddit is essentially like a social media. It's a forum, right? It's the old school.
Yeah.
Okay. So why don't you have an Instagram account? I
don't know. Well, how would it help me? I don't know.
Well, I'll let Denny field that question.
It's a very naive approach, Carl.
Teach me.
It's what I like about it is it's whatever you want it to be.
Yeah.
So as someone in business, it is an opportunity for you to be who you are so that people know who you are before they even meet you. And what I mean by that is it's super, super cool walking into a listing appointment for us. And whereas 4 years ago when I started, people would be asking a lot of questions about who we are, what we do, telling us that they're interviewing other agents, etc. And now a lot of the time we're walking into listing appointments and people are asking us questions about, Jamie, how are your dogs? Denny, what socks are you wearing today?
So it's more like a personal kind of relationship.
People know who you are without ever meeting you. And now in a lot of circumstances, people aren't even interviewing other people because they know who we are and what we do before we even walk in the door, before we even have to sell ourselves. So it's, for me, especially recently, it's just like almost a release. It's like I can be exactly who I want to be, or exactly who I am.
Exactly who you are, yeah.
And if they don't like it, they don't have to follow me, but I'm never going to know.
Yeah. And you think it directly helps your business?
100,000%.
So you have a personal one and you have one for your real estate.
Yeah. So with my personal one, I try to avoid many real estate posts.
Okay, right.
It's more like stories.
Mm-hmm.
Do you even know what Insta stories are?
Yeah, I know what that is.
Sorry,
I don't know. We were
off, a chirp.
When we were off mic, when we weren't recording, you had no idea. What are Insta stories, Carl?
Isn't it just like, I guess, just videos that you can post, right?
So
quick videos about.
Yeah. So I think is it max 10 seconds?
Something like that, 10 or 15.
12 seconds or something. Yeah. Anyway, and they're only up for 24 hours, so it's it's one, you can be a lot less filtered in terms of like producing a professional looking photo or something. And for me, it just kind of gives me a really easy opportunity to show people what I do every day. So it's difficult to describe to people how many hours you're working and how often you're working, and they'll be like, what do you even do?
Yeah.
How many appointments do you have today? Well, I only had 4 appointments, but like there's a lot of work that goes into it. There's a lot of travel. There's a lot of research and stuff. So it gives me an opportunity to show people what it actually takes to get from 0 to here in 4 years.
That's pretty cool. I was actually thinking of doing an Instagram for my company.
Yeah, it would be perfect because you could just take before and after photos and then just post them. And
because all it is photos.
Yeah. Like, do you guys have a website right now that currently has pictures like that? Okay, but I guess this doesn't get as much exposure as you would on Instagram. And then if you were to just run an ad on one of your posts to be like, hey, this is before our bathroom reno, this is after. If you're looking for a bathroom reno, hit us up, like DM us or send us.
How has Instagram helped you?
It's actually helped me quite a bit. So I use it a lot to drive traffic, obviously, to my Amazon page and like to my website. But it's so much trial and error. Like, I don't know, Denny, if you personally dabble into it. But like, holy smokes, the first time when you pump in and it's like Facebook's algorithm takes $5 from you, you're like, what the hell just happened? Like, somebody just stole $5 from me. Like, I saw nothing happen, right? And then it's just so much trial and error. It's insane. It's frustrating at times, right? Because you may have this idea in your head or this vision, like if I target these people and I pump in this amount, I'm able to get this result. And you don't always get what you think in your head. And then it's like, holy smokes, I thought I had a feel for this. Now I got to go back to the drawing board and try all over again, right? Like, where did I go wrong in this? What was my assumption? One of these assumptions is obviously wrong if I'm not getting the results. And it's just so much trial and error, which can be frustrating because at the end of the day, like, even for you guys, like real estate, it's the hardest thing is not knowing when somebody walks through that door, how they got there.
Exactly.
Right. So obviously you have surveys all the time. People always ask you, like, how did you find out about us? Right. Like internet, like word of mouth, whatever. But it's so frustrating because marketing is something that a lot of people don't really focus on too much, especially if you're a smaller company, because it affects the bottom line quite a bit. And you're not 100% sure if you're getting sales. Obviously, there's ways to track it. Like, I'm an e-commerce company, so I can see where I'm getting the clicks from. But if somebody sees my post and then maybe they decide 2 days later or 2 weeks later or 2 months later, they're like, hey, I want tea or I want a bottle or something like that. Oh, I remember that one time I saw that post. There's no way for me to link back to what they saw and what was the actual tipping point for them to make the purchase.
Right.
So,
what about Twitter? Do you use Twitter a lot, Danny?
No,
right?
0. But I would making a point to try to get into it this fall. And it's Twitter. I don't know much about it. I'll learn a lot, but it's just like conversation.
Right.
And so it's more just like searching something in your industry or something you know information about and just commenting and like creating engagement that way. Whereas like Instagram is more like a platform where you just can express who you are and people are kind of following along and commenting.
That's cool.
do you? I guess you don't use Twitter at all, Carl? No.
No, not really.
I use Twitter a lot for news. Like if I'm trying to find something, or if I'm trying to follow like an event happening, or like whether it's like a sports game or whatever. Because like sometimes, I mean, like you might be the only person out of all your friends, or literally anybody you know, that's watching something on the news.
Yeah. And
you're like, it's just basically almost companionship, or like to see that somebody else is watching it in real time and like what they think about it too, right? So I find that pretty interesting. And obviously you get the people on there like Donald Trump tweets all the time, right? So it's pretty entertaining to see what he says and stuff like that, and like other celebrities. But I think Twitter is a very underappreciated platform. Their stock is actually not that great. I've always wondered why their stock hasn't taken off, because it's the one platform that is kind of everybody always goes to for news. And it's like they were the first ones to also create the hashtag, and like one of the most important, like you hashtag something on Instagram, you can only see pictures of it, right? If you search a hashtag in Twitter, you can see people writing and giving information, and actually written word is a lot more descriptive than a photo may entail, right? So I've always wondered why Twitter hasn't taken off like it was supposed to, or like I thought it would. But I think it'll get there over time. Although it's been so long.
I think early on people had a problem with the limited characters, right?
Right, yes.
And
now
then
they've expanded it.
And then as social overall has grown, there's other platforms that have taken the good pieces of Twitter and utilized it in a more creative visual way,
right?
Like Instagram.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a specific need.
But nothing hasn't been able to capture like a real-time event and it happening, right? Instagram took away one of the things that I used to love most about it, and everything used to be chronological order. And now it's like they choose with their algorithm what you see first.
Yeah.
So like, for example, if I see LeBron do like a double between the legs 360 windmill, and I'm like, holy smokes! Like, how are people react? Like, where can I find the video? And I go on there and I see, I don't know, like something Carl posted 5 hours ago. Like this, like it doesn't match my timeline, right? So that's where I find Twitter has the most advantage, because no other platform does that. Snapchat obviously is a lot more personal. I feel like Snapchat's basically fallen off with Instagram stories. Like everybody just does Instagram now. And Facebook is the exact same thing, right? They have that same algorithm where they don't show you everything in chronological order. And like Facebook is more, I always feel like it's an older platform for older people. Like people that show me pictures of their grandkids and like dogs and stuff, and like things I don't really care about, right? And it's too cluttered. There's too much going on Facebook that I can't really like segregate what I want to see and what I don't want to see. So then at some point it's just not appealing for me to actually go through the feed. Right? I don't know how you feel about it. I think you're on Facebook just as much, but a lot of it is Instagram stories that you just plug into Facebook, right?
Facebook for me is more business oriented, because I just get better. Like my demographic and a lot of our clientele is 25 to 45 year olds. And those people are on Instagram a lot more often.
Yes, yeah.
So you get more engagement. Facebook is more now, to me, business platform where we're more just like sharing open house posts and sharing interesting articles that you come across or whatever it is.
Right.
But it's more, for me, it's more business, whereas Instagram is more personal brand.
Right. How do you use LinkedIn?
No, I have an account. I rarely go on it.
Do you see any value in LinkedIn?
I think you'd have to be pretty aggressive for it to be of any value for a realtor.
Right.
Like you'd basically just be sending people messages.
I see a lot of mortgage brokers. What they do is they just basically continue to post articles, like the Bank of Canada thinks they're going to increase their interest rate or whatever, and they just constantly pump article. Yeah. So is that something you think maybe you guys can do with real estate? And like,
we can get better. I think you just have to be carefully creative in how you produce stuff like that.
Right.
I never want to be a guy that is shoving information down people's throats about real estate.
Right.
I want to show the fun side of it, and I want to show who I am. And if people like me, they'll contact me for real estate stuff.
Yeah. Do you
because for me as a consumer on the other end, that pisses me off.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like it's like basically walking into a store and having 15 people come to you and be like, "Hey, do you need help? Do you need help? Do you need help?" No, I don't. Right? Like if I need help, I'll come see you. Like, please screw off. Do you set time aside? Like, does it ever become too much to just constantly update all these different social media platforms?
No, it's fun.
It is.
It's fun. My social media has kind of gone through 3 phases. 1, opening accounts and not really caring. 2, maybe 2 years ago, caring a little bit more because I saw value in it for business purposes. And 3, 6 months ago, maybe like February, March this year, like getting into it hardcore more to build a personal brand and let people know who I am outside of real estate.
Right.
I use this line, real estate's what I do, not who I am.
Yeah.
So I want people to be able to see that.
Right.
And so at that point, obviously listening to Gary Vee kind of pushed me in that direction a little bit, but trying to post one photo with some creative content once a day, but not so creative that it's fake, more creative in whether it's like a funny real estate photo or like a hike photo, and just like talking about where I'm getting motivation from or whatever it is, and like 4 to 6 stories a day.
Right.
And stories is literally just documenting what you do.
Yeah.
And so like for someone like
you
Carl,
did one here today, right? That was a story that you took.
it was. Met my sister for breakfast this morning too. That was a story.
Nice.
At some really grungy place in Surrey. Okay, so for someone like Carl, who's a contractor, you have to be creative because there's so many reno and contractor companies on social that literally just post a ugly, dark photo of a reno, and you're like, no one gives a shit. So like coming up with a creative way to show who you are, but also what you do, is to me the fun part of it.
You can spice it up, man. Like if you just took a picture and just put, I don't know, like off the top of my head, like a little plush toy in every single photo, like before, like the plush toy in the bathtub, and then it needs a reno, and then the plush toy there, right? And every single photo could be that same plush toy, and then now you're associated with that, whether it's a plush toy or, I don't know, a joint.
Like this. So instead of posting a photo of an exterior of a house or an ugly condo and just being like, hey, I sold this today, like 99.999% of realtors do this. Look at this. This is fun.
So what did you do? Explain this. What did you do?
Okay.
Oh, so okay. Yeah. So you're jumping with the sold signs and you're throwing them.
So this was a house that I had on the market for like 3 months, and we just listed a bad time of year in like early or late June, maybe, when the market was slowing a lot and interest rates just went up.
Right.
And it was a high price point for New West, and we had a ton of action, a couple accepted offers that just fell apart, and it was just like a frustrating experience for the clients just because it took a while. And so we sold it a couple weeks ago, and just like trying to, I don't know, it's just like who I am is kind of quirky and funny. And so like I just grabbed like a stack of sold stickers and get my assistant to come with me and videotape me jumping off the front stairs and just like throwing them into the air.
That's actually fantastic. How do you come up with these ideas? Do you see it somewhere, or is it just in your head, or you just try? Just do as many things
Literally,
as possible,
I just show up at the property
to.
and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this today.
Just being yourself, man.
Totally. And it's like, I've never gone to a yoga class, but for some reason I think it's funny to do yoga poses in front of houses. I don't know why. Right? I don't even know what the poses are. Like sometimes I Google what is a yoga pose, and I'll be like, okay, I think I could do that one.
Okay, one last thing about social media. What do you have to say for people who think it's ruining the next generation, or it's kind of ruining how people interact, or creating mental health issues with people because they're always constantly judging each other online, and how social media is not kind of real life, like Instagram is not real life? Like, what do you have to say for people who are on the opposite side of this and against it?
Can I say my Gary Vee answer?
Yeah, you can say whatever you want.
Gary Vee talks about social and just like it's bringing all these negatives to light. So regardless of what era you grew up in, your parents and grandparents, there was a lot of negativity in those days too. It just wasn't ever publicized because they didn't have a platform for it.
Right.
So I don't know. I think the pros way outweigh the cons. Sure, I understand that some people growing up with low self-esteem and someone says one bad thing to them on their social media, it can affect them. I understand that. But I think the opportunity far outweighs the small negatives.
Yes, and I actually agree with that. And same thing with technology and everything, right? People always complain about something because it's not what they're used to or what they're comfortable with, and they'll find some fault with it because they don't want to learn or kind of upgrade themselves to where the world is right now. So I agree with that. So Carl, are you gonna start an Instagram account?
I think I will. Yeah.
Let's go. What are you gonna call it?
I don't know. I'll probably do it after my business.
Okay.
Can I be in your first post?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
Perfect. All right. Denny, thanks for being on the podcast, as we always do with all our guests. We're going to give you about a minute to rant or promote anything or talk about whatever you want.
Love it.
The floor is yours.
I don't know, man. I love having experience conversations, just people talking about like what we talked about today. What motivates you? Why do you get up out of bed in the morning? And I really enjoy, regardless of what stage in your career you're at, having those conversations with people brand new or someone who's been in the industry for 10 years or whatever, regardless of industry. So I'd say, I don't know, reach out to me. I'd love to grab a coffee with whoever, chat about business or life or opening Carl's Instagram account or whatever.
Perfect. How can they contact you?
You can have my phone number if you want. I don't care.
Wait, you tell the people how they
phone
contact.
Instagram is easy. DM me, Denny.Dumas.
Dumas.
DENNY.DUMAS. Email is easy too, denny@gdrealestate.ca, or text me 604-761-6202. The more the better. I like coffee.
Perfect. Thanks for being on the pod, and for you guys out there, thanks for listening.